national anthem playing. I was carrying the flag on a pole the proper way. You don't hang it over your shoulders like a damn hippie. You carry it up and you hold it proud and you hold it high. I was proud to be an American. I still am. Every damn day.
Welcome on in, everybody, to the July 4th special. We got two special guests on this pod. The return of the Butcher, Sean Mullin, and technical director of the Herd Handbook, Jim Pellegrino. And, before we got on here, I was like, it'd be funny if we started the pod with just like 2.5 minutes. We all just stand and listen to the national anthem. That'd be crazy. But
do the Pledge of Allegiance.
That would have been a good idea. But how you been, man? It's been a while since we've seen you. How's like jiu-jitsu and all that going?
Oh, it's been going great. I had let me think. It's been I guess the last time I was here was in January. So I've had I had a tournament in January, and I had a couple super fights, as they call them, but I don't really like to call them that because it sounds kind of corny. I just call them matches, like individual matches. And the most I guess the most notable was the match I had on June 2nd. And it was a no time limit. It was no time limit and submission only, which I'd never done that before. Like, I've done submission only type matches, but they have a time limit. So, like, if someone doesn't get a submission, they make, like, a referee's decision. Yeah. But this was literally no time limit. So, like, it could go 2 hours if it had to,
That's crazy.
So it's kind of like, when I was thinking about it, my coach, he messaged me, like, maybe a month beforehand, and they were looking for a purple belt 170-pounder. I mean, and I'm not like a full-blown one. I'm maybe like 165 at the most. But that's just what they needed for that's what they were looking for. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And so I took the match, and I'm happy I did because it was great. It was a great showing because the match ended up going 25 minutes until I submitted him with an arm triangle.
Nice. Oh, yeah, I think I saw that on your story now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And it was kind of ironic because the guy that I was going against was from Ambush Jiu-Jitsu. And the only reason I ever heard of that was because, like, a few months earlier in April, I was at this open mat in Henzo Gracie, Jersey City. And a bunch of guys there were from Ambush Jiu-Jitsu. And I rolled with a bunch of them. And I tapped all of them. Like, it was basically like, we didn't really agree upon it ahead of time, but it was just like there was no timer or anything. So basically, you'd start rolling, and it's kind of just like, well, I guess we're just going to keep going until someone gets a submission, So I rolled with a few of the guys there, like upper belts, and eventually I would get them with, I think I subbed them with like a north-south choke and an arm triangle or whatever. And and the guy that I ended up going against was actually there, but me and him just for whatever reason didn't end up rolling. But we were talking in the locker room and this and that. So then, like, a month later when I found out about the match, I'm like, damn, I know this guy. And it was kind of funny because he's been at a lot of tournaments. One of the pictures that's on my Instagram from, like, 3 years ago, he was we didn't end up going against each other, but on the podium, we're, like, right next to each other. And I didn't even realize my girlfriend actually noticed it somehow. Because I guess she recognized him in the picture for the super fight picture. And she's like, why does this guy look familiar? I think I've seen him in one of the pictures on your Instagram. So then she went back, and I was like, holy shit, that is the same guy.
That's crazy.
So it's kind of weird. Like, we kind of, like, a bunch of different times, like, kind of crossed paths, and then we finally ended up having the match, and that's how it ended up going, so.
I mean, I think about 20 minutes rolling with you, and then I think about, like, when me and Tiz used to go by your apartment, and we moved the couch.
Yeah.
I think we lasted a combined, like, minute.
Yeah.
So would you say in that setting, Sean, with no time limit, are you more or less looking for more like different ways to submit guys, or are you just still trying to finish them as fast as possible?
I mean, it was kind of I don't know, like I never did a no time limit, but in my head I'm like, I feel like I should not try to finish it too fast unless it's like blatantly obvious, but like I didn't want to go too crazy too early and then be gassed, like I have good cardio, but everything, you could have great cardio in training, but like when you're competing with the nerves and the adrenaline, like sometimes you get tired a lot quicker than you would in training, But thank God that didn't really happen because, I mean, obviously I went 25 minutes. And he kind of came out kind of like hot and heavy, like more aggressive. And not that I was just letting him push me around, but I wasn't trying to go crazy, especially like on the feet with wrestling because that's where you really get tired. So like eventually I got him down and then at one point we got like in a scramble and he got back up to his feet. And then I could kind of feel like he was getting tired. And then he pulled guard. And that's when I really knew I'm like, oh, this guy's gassed. And then we ended up on the feet again. Like, it was a crazy match, 25 minutes. A lot happened within it. But towards the end of the match, like, when we were up on the feet wrestling, he was literally just, like, using me to hold him up, basically. So I just, like, freaking snapped him down like a front headlock and just dragged him down to the mat. And then finally got the arm triangle. But it was, like, I can't even remember how many. I had so many submission attempts leading up to that. He was just, like, was able to narrowly escape a lot of the submission. I mean, he was a tough guy,
So did you do anything differently in training, like to prepare, like maybe for an extra bit of cardio? Like, did you do like longer rounds or anything? Or
I mean, honestly, what I would try to do is like, I just kind of would do a lot more. Not that I wasn't doing enough, but I would just kind of like not pull guard really ever in training, which is kind of like what I kind of do anyway, against a lot of my instructors, commands. But for that, I'm like let's say if I take a guy down and get a submission in training within like a 5-minute round, then I would like, all right, like I already took him down, like I submitted him, let me like pull guard and work that aspect of my game. But knowing that I want to kind of push my cardio, I'm like, all right, well, just get another takedown, or even if I didn't submit him, like even if there's like 10 seconds left, if you like maul a guy for like 4.5 minutes and then you hear the 30-second buzzer in the training, sometimes you're like, 30 seconds left, I'll just, I already like fucked them up, like who cares, But I stopped really trying to do that because I'm like, there's still 30, like get another takedown, and if he gets up, get another take, just kind of forcing the wrestling even more than usual. So that seemed to help a lot. And I mean, to be honest, I stopped smoking as much pot. So that seemed to maybe, it's hard to say. I don't think that like really affected my cardio that much, but it definitely didn't hurt. You know what I mean? Like just inhaling less, I wasn't smoking like any like nicotine or anything, it was only weed. Yeah, I use the Zyn, so shout out to Zyn because it's a good way I can get nicotine without smoking, which I never did. Our
publicity.
Yeah, because I only ever smoked weed anyway, but even that, like it seemed to help a little bit. So I think those are the two main things that helped a lot, and it definitely paid off in that match. Thank God.
It was
sucks, a great feeling.
Me and Tiz are really the only ones, and Brian in our friend group have been able to roll against you. We got to get Jim in there against you. He's got long legs. He might be able to get that triangle.
Yeah, right.
It's a humbling experience.
And that was a long time ago,
especially when Sean is pulling guard from the jump.
to be fair, even if Sean hadn't been doing jiu-jitsu, I would imagine it would have gone very similar. I think he would have been able to figure that one out.
That was like what, at least 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Were you? I don't even know if you were a blue belt yet.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if I was, it was fresh. Yeah.
I would still get my ass kicked though. Like either way you call it, like. Yeah, 3 years ago now.
Well, I mean, we did. So
yeah.
I don't know. I think it'd be pretty funny. You gotta like help. We gotta train Jimmy. We already trained Tiz in the arts of boxing. We gotta get Jim to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
now.
Definitely.
Would it be an unfair fight, me versus Tiz?
In MMA or what are we talking? Because Tiz is.
Yeah, and what setting?
Oh fuck.
Powerslap.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
That'd be a bit uneven. Just no offense to he's a lot bigger.
Yeah, that's true.
He's got
Jim, show everybody your.
We can grapple, Jim.
Let's go.
How long? Look there.
Yeah.
Look at that reach right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He's got to square it up.
Jiu-jitsu match would be interesting. I mean, you outweigh him a little bit, but it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, I don't know. That one might be.
Yeah. I'd probably.
See it.
Yeah.
I would do that.
I'd probably go for like a lot of single legs, to be honest.
Don't tell me the game.
He's telling me that like I'm gonna know what it is.
You won't know how to sprawl anyway, so.
I was just talking about Powerslap. Did you see Paige Van Zandt?
Yeah, I did.
In Powerslap, and she won.
Yeah,
that's kind of crazy.
It's funny that you mentioned the Powerslap as well, because this is a return for Jimmy as well, who his first video sitting here doing a pod with us was the reading the Powerslap comments.
Yeah.
And that was when it was still like I think this was right when it like got cut off from what channel, cable channel was it supposed to be on?
TBS or TNT.
TBS, and then they got taken off of that and put onto one of those uncensored streaming services.
Now we're on Rumble.
Yeah, Rumble.
He said it's going to be bigger than the UFC now. Dana said that Powerslap is going to be bigger than the UFC.
I don't know about that.
He did say that. Yeah.
I don't know where. What numbers is he beating? Like,
right.
For idiots and like people who are constantly in bars, maybe like, that's their demographic.
Well, to be fair, we've had 2 Powerslap related conversations on the podcast now, and you've been a part of both of them, Jim. So you might also be the THH Powerslap reporter.
Yeah, right.
Send me down.
I have to send you to
one of
the events.
Funny.
I mean, I might be missing something, but like I feel like
you're not.
It's like when Dana White says something like that, you would think like, oh, he's already got stars in this whole thing. I couldn't tell you one legit Powerslap.
That's a good point.
They don't mark. All you see is the clips, and that's it. You don't hear anything about. It's
just
them.
like 200 Shane Gillis's.
It's so true.
They're all just like huge ass dudes with like big beards.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I never got into the Powerslap. I think it's
right off
pretty
the street.
stupid to be honest.
It is. I don't know. Like, so here's my theory on it. Let me know if you guys agree with this. So like, the way I view it is the UFC, like, they have a lot of bargaining power with like commissions of like what could get, I guess, like regulated, because I would imagine that they help Las Vegas's revenue quite a bit and Nevada's revenue. So like my view is like maybe they went to the commission and it's like, if you don't give us the okay on this, we're not going to have like pay-per-views in your city or in your state anymore. Yeah. And maybe it was like that type of thing. I don't know if that's just my conspiracy theory. I don't know if anyone would agree with that, but that's just.
I'm surprised.
I say to myself, how can you get that legalized?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm surprised it gets sanctioned a lot of times.
You're hitting a defenseless opponent. Like I know that they're bracing themselves, but like that's not the same. That's got to be worse in a way. I mean, you're not moving with, because at least in MMA you can kind of like move with a strike, or even boxing. But with Powerslap, like, they literally just have to
You just got to eat it, yeah.
We'll see, they have powder on their hands, so it's okay.
That's how they prevent it. Oh, my God. Like, what is the point of that? Is there a reason for that? Like, I know they do that with, like, guys who arm wrestle, too. Like, what's the point of putting powder
Maybe so your hand doesn't slip when you hit their face or something?
It's so you get a really big...
Yeah, I think it helps. It does give a good, like, visual, I guess, too. It makes it look more dramatic or more, like, impactful when you see that big cloud.
Imagine if Conor McGregor makes his return at Powerslap. Big Powerslap pay-per-view.
I wouldn't be surprised at this. Nothing would surprise me with Conor. I was hoping he was gonna come back.
I know, right? Isn't that wild?
Night,
like we were supposed to watch him fight last night.
That was a good fight too. Like,
what's the deal with him?
I mean, well, so honestly, like, where do you even start? Because it was after UFC 302, and then they were supposed to have that press conference in Dublin. Conor and Michael Chandler.
Oh yeah.
Then all of a sudden it got canceled. And it came from Conor's side, and so everybody at first was like, "Oh, he got arrested," and then like Ariel reports like, "No, he didn't get arrested." That's not the direct quote, but that's basically how I took it, because he said nothing scandalous. I'm like, "Oh, so arrested," but it seemed like it was probably an injury, and then it came out obviously that he broke his toe. So
my foot was a balloon.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, he fought Khabib with a broken foot. He fought Max Holloway back in the day with the torn ACL.
He fought Chad Mendes. Like, I forget what the injury was, but he was injured for that too, I think.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then he pulls out with a broken toe. I feel like that tells you a lot about his confidence right now.
Yeah, something to do with a 3-year layoff.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it.
Maybe he just learned from the past that like he doesn't want to do that anymore. Come in like compromised, you know.
I can't say I like would hate on him for it at all, because I mean it's his health. He should do what he wants. Like he doesn't have to fight, so he shouldn't if he doesn't want to. But like at the same time, it just rubs me the wrong way, because this is like the same guy who, when like RDA broke his foot, he told him to take like an ibuprofen.
Yeah.
So it's like for him to like break his leg, and now he hurts his toe. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that's karma. But...
I think he's just partying a lot and like drinking and doing too much blow, to be honest.
I mean, dude, you see some of those
That's
tweets
probably how he hurt his foot.
Some of the tweets he puts out when he's talking shit about people, like, they're so aggressive, and like they're in all caps too. You have to wonder why they're in all caps.
Wasn't there like a video like 2 weeks ago that he was in the club partying and stuff too?
See, you want to know? I feel like that was like kind of bullshit. I thought he was fucking with Chandler's psyche on that one. I feel like he was just like, because he knows that if he posts that, everybody's gonna like follow it. There was no drink in his hand.
True.
So I was like, maybe he's just kind of like making Chandler think he's not training at all.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
You never know with Conor. He does
yeah.
like all that mental warfare. He's like one of the best at that, or he used to be at least. You know.
You think he like? What do you think? You think he's number one at that all time?
Probably.
It's possible. Because Chael was a good talker, but he wasn't really the type of guy who was trying to like get in your head. He was more just trying to like laugh. Make you laugh.
Yeah.
But
he did it to Jose Aldo the worst.
Yeah, that was bad.
When you go back and watch those press conferences.
Remember he was in Brazil and he ripped the picture of him?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, that was a crazy
The best
time.
is when he's up there, he's like, I'm sitting up here with my feet up. I run Rio de Janeiro. Who's going to do something about it?
He's like, this is my city.
Yeah.
What a nutcase.
He definitely would get ran out of Brazil.
Yeah, not to the same extent that Colby did.
Yeah.
No.
He's probably the most hated fighter in Brazil, Colby, yeah.
At least Conor's hate was just directed at one guy.
Yeah.
I think that, like, Colby took it to another level because, like, Chael, he was talking to, like, Vanderlei and Anderson Silva. Conor was talking to Jose Aldo, but then Colby was just like, no, your country's a dump. Then again, though, Chael, do you remember the one where Chael was talking about how he saw people in, I think it was Brazil, playing in the mud?
Oh, yeah.
How would you think that they would have computers?
Yeah, he went pretty hard on Brazil, too, actually.
Yeah, true. He was just funnier. I think that's what it was. Because he was cracking jokes. Colby was just like, you guys suck. But Chael, he at least had some wit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Like, I think that nowadays with MMA, there's not as many people who are, like, genuinely good trash talkers. Like, it's people who are kind of trying to copy that Conor McGregor role. Or they're just, like, cringy. Kind of like you know, how Ian Gary could be sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, even Colby at times.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if you'll ever be able to, like, go back to those old days. What do you think? You think we'll ever go back to it?
Only if it's Conor, I feel. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure someone maybe eventually will come along that can pull it off and it'll seem more, like, organic, you know?
Like,
not as forced.
To think, like, there's nobody.
But, yeah, I don't know. It's just not the same.
Bilal.
Oh, yeah. He says, what the fudge?
I thought it was funny that Bilal, when he was tweeting about the Leon Edwards fight, he said how he was going to, like, drag him into deep water and win by, like, a 50-42 decision. And, like, the first reply on the tweet was, like, even in this guy's dreams, he's not finishing Leon Edwards. Like, he can't even get a finish in his dreams.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. But, dude,
do you think Conor's afraid of just losing his status in the UFC?
I kind of think he is. Like, I mean,
I feel like he can't take that loss immediately coming back after.
Yeah.
What's happened.
mean, what does he do after another loss?
Yeah.
We were already discounting his chances at ever sniffing a UFC title again, which sucks. But
there's 2 fights left on his contract, right?
Yeah.
So there's one that was supposed to already happen, and so if he were to beat Michael Chandler, where does that put him either? You know what I mean?
I mean, with Conor, though, he could win one fight and then they give him a title shot.
Yeah. I feel like Conor's he might try and get through his UFC contract and take another boxing match. Like, just fight guys to get out of it and then take a fight and then maybe come back.
Yeah.
Because he's, like, said in the past that the UFC is his home, so I don't know if he would leave for good if he ever did, but...
I still want to see him fight Nate Diaz.
I feel like that could be the final.
That's got to happen. Like, come on.
Did he just get? If I'm not mistaken, he just bought some sort of stake with BKFC.
He did actually. Yeah. That's smart of him though, because they're kind of like rising up a little bit. I don't think they'll ever be like at the UFC level, but like for combat sports, they're doing all the right things. I mean, me and Tiz have talked about the PFL so many times. Like after they signed Ngannou and like they did all these good things, they merged with Bellator. We're like, you know, now the pressure's on. Like, they have to make themselves either, like, a clear second or start to, like, compete with the UFC, and they've blown it completely.
The thing with the PFL is, like, I guess if you just watch the fights for what they're worth, but, like the whole, like, point scoring system, I'm like, this is, like...
It's confusing.
It's going to definitely turn off, like, a lot of, especially casuals, but even someone like me who's a hardcore fan, I'm like, this is kind of stupid. Like, you get a point if you get this finish or that finish, and depending on what round it's in.
So you know what it is with me?
I don't know.
It's like the way that they're ran, because like you still don't really find out about like their events until like right before they happen, and then you see like one post on your feed. But even besides that, like the whole thing with like Gegard Mousasi, like they just kind of didn't give him a fight when he wanted one, and they had to like demand his release publicly for the PFL to even like return a call.
Yeah.
And like, you know, when you're doing things like that, and then you call yourself a fighter first organization, it's hypocritical.
Yeah.
So I just think that they've self-sabotaged themselves so much. I mean, even Ngannou at this point, he still hasn't fought for them. He's been on their roster for over a year. He's already taken 2 boxing fights. Like, he might not even fight by the end of 2024 at this rate. So I just think that they shoot themselves in the foot too much at this point. And BKFC, it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't think that they could blow up the way that they have, but you know, Mike Perry.
Mike Perry's he's found his niche, definitely.
Yeah. We've talked about that.
I love Mike Perry.
Times. He's fighting Jake Paul now. Do you hear about that?
You gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me.
I wish too bad that wasn't in BKFC.
Oh, dude,
that'd be great.
Love that to be bare knuckle.
Right?
Jake Paul would never.
Nuts.
He'd be screwed, Jake Paul.
Why are the Pauls? They just fight the most ridiculous people.
Well, I mean,
like, it started normal with
Did it start normal though? Because Jake Paul fought Nate Robinson, I remember, for the one fight on the undercard. I think it was of Tyson versus Roy Jones, which was crazy in itself.
I'm totally blanking on the fighter. The fight we saw in DC.
Oh, Askren. He fought Askren.
Oh, that's relatively normal.
Well, for not in boxing though. He did fight a guy who can barely strike in the sport like that. It only involves striking.
But now he was gonna box Tyson.
Tyron Woodley. Well, Mike Tyson is almost 60 years old. I don't unless he knocks Jake Paul out in the first round. I don't really know how he'll do.
Yeah.
And especially after the whole stuff with his health on the plane or whatever that they had to land because he had
he has ulcers, right?
Yeah. I'm and we're gonna let this dude fight. Come on.
Nah, that was purely psychological. Get Jake Paul.
I mean, what do you guys think of this? Because what does Jake Paul gain from a win over Mike Tyson? Because if he wins, it's you just beat up this 60-year-old man.
Just the name value. Well,
but from who? And people aren't stupid.
Yeah, you think too. It's we're gonna sell out AT&T Stadium and it's gonna be streaming on Netflix. Because wasn't I don't know what sort of debut for Netflix that because now Netflix is becoming this main place for fighting streaming and all of that.
Even just live sports.
Yeah, live sports. So it's really just to sell a fight. It's hey, here's Mike Tyson's first pro bout since 2005. So,
but that's not even my point. I would get the intrigue. It's more so if Jake wins, even the casual fans, they're not blind. No offense, but
I feel though it's still the name value. Just because it's Mike Tyson, it's so polarizing.
Someone, someone like me,
someone who just sees that is gonna be oh,
wow, he beat Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Killing machine.
But you're also Mike Tyson is 60 years old. Jake Paul's in his 20s. Even if you don't follow sports, I think you could kind of...
I feel a lot of people won't take that into consideration though as much as you might think.
I don't know. I mean,
unfortunately.
Maybe I'm just giving society too much credit.
Yeah, I think you are. There's definitely a lot of idiots who'd be wow, he beat Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson?
Yeah.
Is he the GOAT?
Yeah.
I definitely didn't take that into consideration initially because I'm oh wow, Mike Tyson, he's gonna kill him. He's gonna kill Jake Paul. But then he's 60 something years old.
I mean, the way I felt
he's been beat up his whole life.
At first I was pretty hyped. I was oh, Mike Tyson's about to knock out Jake Paul. But then I start to see those first few training videos, and Jim can speak to this when it comes to editing, the way that it was cut. He was hitting pads, but it was just quick cuts over and over, so you could tell it wasn't all at once. And he looks fast in the video because it's so fast.
Such a short period of time.
Yeah, but it's just right when I started seeing those, I was oh, this is not going to go well if he goes in there and fights Jake Paul, and then he has the ulcers and the fight gets canceled a week later.
True.
Little trick behind the scenes. Look out for the sketchy edits.
Yeah, right.
If you ever see quick cuts, it makes it look faster than they actually are. That's for sure. And plus that with the camera too, they would constantly change angles or move the camera with him, and it's there's these little tricks that they would do to make him look a lot faster than he is.
The real thing with Jake Paul is to this point he's fought one you could even say legit boxer with Tommy Fury and he lost.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
It's kind of just gotten to the point where the shtick of hey, guys that aren't in UFC anymore, and that's who he chooses to fight. It's kind of tired, and it's happening again with Mike Perry. So
although with Mike Perry, this might be the first. Actually, well, did he fought Anderson Silva too?
Yeah,
didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, then I guess the second person. I was gonna say he hasn't really fought too many UFC guys who are known as good strikers because there's Woodley, and Woodley has power, but he's not he was raised like a wrestler.
Yeah.
So it's not the same. But then again, I mean, he did beat Anderson Silva, and Anderson Silva was almost 50.
But Mike Perry's still like young and active, you know.
Yeah. The thing is the weight disadvantage. That's like, I wonder what they're gonna fight at. I think they said it's cruiserweight, which is, I think, it's right under heavyweight, so I know it's under 200 pounds. I don't know like what the.
Well, how much does Mike Perry weigh? He's probably like what, 190 at least, right?
Yeah, but I think Jake Paul is bigger though.
Yeah.
I think, and like he might have to cut weight to get to that.
True.
It's just, I don't know. I'd love to see him like actually fight another decent boxer. I honestly wouldn't have minded seeing like a rematch with Tommy Fury, which like sounds crazy. Like I never thought I would have said that, but I don't know. I feel like we've seen enough of him fighting these UFC guys who honestly like, don't seem like they should be in the boxing ring in the first place.
True.
But I don't know. Who knows who will be the next matchup when the next like set of UFC releases or cuts happen.
yeah, right.
I don't know. Speaking of UFC fighters, though, I thought this was funny. I wanted to bring it up. I literally like wrote it down so I wouldn't forget about this. Did you guys hear about what Dan Hooker was saying about Charles Oliveira?
No, I didn't hear about it.
Oh, like this is so funny to me. So all of a sudden, like this rumor comes out that the UFC is working on a fight between Dan Hooker and Charles Oliveira.
Yeah.
And like Dan Hooker was the one like who said it on like a show, and then he was asked about it maybe like a week or so later, and they were like, yeah, like, you know, what happened that's going on? And he goes, oh, I completely made that up. Because I was just I was hoping that they would lead to something.
Yeah,
I was like, that's great. Like, that's the actual goal. I completely made it up. And like, dude,
it'd be a good fight.
I mean, it could work.
I want to see Charles Oliveira fight again. I love Charles Oliveira.
I want to say I heard that they were working on a fight for him recently, and like not this one.
His last fight was good.
Rumor.
Like, I know he lost, but it was a good fight against Tsarukyan.
I'm trying to think. This is gonna bug me now. I wonder who it was against. It was someone. I'm never gonna figure it out. Maybe if I look it up. But Charles Oliveira is obviously like one of the most fun fighters to watch.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, if he would have maybe lasted longer as champion at lightweight, he would almost have like the same type of following and love from the fans that Alex Pereira has at this point, because people love Peloton too, and he's on a special run right now, it seems like. But
I'm
trying to see,
especially like the Brazilian fans, they're crazy about, you know, their fighters.
I feel like that tells you what people want too, because like, you know, you got all these guys who are trying to like copy everybody with trash talk or forced trash talk, and Alex Pereira literally doesn't say a word. Everybody loves him. So
I know.
Well, you two especially know better than most that, you know, Charles Oliveira had been, you know, beating these guys on the prelims and stuff, and like he's been beating these names on the UFC stage before he really got, you know, his shot at gold. And Alex Pereira like kind of hit the ground
right
running.
into it.
Yeah, I mean, in 2.5 years, he's 8-1 in the UFC. Has already been a champion in 2 weight classes.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally insane. And
Charles Oliveira, like his resurgence, it all started with that fight against Kevin Lee.
Yeah, that was a fun one to watch.
Yeah,
and like if you remember at that point, me and you were already saying like they got to give Charles Oliveira like bigger name opponents because he has like the skill. And then Kevin Lee, respect to Kevin Lee, because nobody really wanted to fight Charles. Yeah. And then Kevin stepped up and did it, and that was a fun fight. Too,
it was. I watched that. I just rewatched it. I've been showing my girlfriend a lot of UFC fights. She's Brazilian, actually. I met her at jiu-jitsu.
Oh, nice.
But
you got to give her the.
She didn't know who Charles Oliveira. I mean, I basically do that only just when she's at my house.
Yeah.
But of course, she wants to see all the Brazilian fighters, and I showed her so many fights of Charles Oliveira, and she loves him. And that was, of course, I basically like explained to her like the timeline. Like I showed her the Kevin Lee fight, and then I just like went from there like to Tony Ferguson and all these fights with Poirier and Gaethje and this and that, even up to the Tsarukyan fight.
Yeah.
And then some fights from before that, like Clay Guida fight, whatever. Like there's so many fights, you know, to show, but that was definitely where it started.
Yeah, he's fought like everybody at this point. He almost had like a Bisping type run, because Bisping got it like after some tough losses too.
Yeah.
And like now Oliveira did the same thing, and I think he has the potential to get back. But Islam Makhachev, he's just different at this point.
Yeah.
And,
oh my God, yeah.
Dude, when we had our UFC 302 vlog, me and Tiz keep joking about this. The Islam Makhachev fans, they were giving us some shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So this video, like, let me tell you this. This video is like 36, 37 minutes long, and maybe like 10 minutes of it is related to Islam Makhachev, and this motherfucker, he comments, he goes, "You guys barely put any of Islam Makhachev in the video." And I was watching the video like right when that comment was left, because I was doing like timestamps because I had to make like shorts for it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like I'm starting to keep track now of how many times Islam Makhachev is in the video. And like we had him in the press conference face-off, the interviews after the weigh-ins, the weigh-in face-off, his walkout, parts of the fight, and the whole finishing sequence from like when he took Poirier down to after the submission, and then his post-fight interview too. And I was so heated. Like, I was like the only time I ever like responded to a comment. I was like, I gotta like 10-8 this guy.
Yeah. So the support from the Islam Makhachev fans definitely outweighs that, but they definitely didn't hold back either.
It was 50-50. Like, some Islam fans loved it, and then other Islam fans were like, "You guys were biased." I'm like, dude, like, we don't control how many people boo Islam Makhachev. Like,
yeah, right.
You know, like, they're like blaming us for like everybody's booing him. Like, you guys are biased. I'm like, how's that even possible? Like,
yeah, right.
Oh, dude, they hated him.
They did. Yeah, Jim went to the press conference with us.
You can hear a
which
word he was saying.
Yeah, Islam.
Yeah.
UFC 302. That was a fun time.
That was a good fight.
That was me and Tiz's first like UFC event, which was kind of crazy. And then there were no finishes for like 8 fights.
Yeah.
Rob, if you look up real quick, we'll say just Ilia Toporia's age, because if you look up his age, because of all the current champions, he's the youngest, and
he's 27.
He's 27, so Islam's 32, and there was the conversation brewing like by the end of I think Alex Pereira is the oldest, as a matter of fact, and like by the time Islam gets to, we'll say, Alex Pereira's age, could he surpass someone like John Jones for like
title defenses?
Yeah, title defenses, greatest of all time, whatever you want it to be.
I mean, he's really good, man. It's definitely possible.
It's gonna be hard to beat that guy.
Yeah, I'm
he's
not
like
sure.
a freaking robot.
He's relentless, and I mean, I think we needed to see something like that Poirier fight, him get brought into the, in terms of on the feet, brought into the deep water like that, get hit and stuff, and obviously make it to that 5th round to still get a submission finish.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, it was a close fight on the feet. I didn't like the narrative that, like, Islam was getting, like, pieced up by Dustin Poirier on the feet. Like, yeah, he was getting hit, but he was, like, if you look at the stats, he was landing the exact same amount almost every single one of those rounds.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for his striking because he's such a good grappler.
Yeah.
But he just stood on the feet and maintained pretty well with one of the better strikers in that division. Like, that's why I don't know who beats this guy. I want to see Arman Tsarukyan, but did you hear he got suspended?
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
He punched the fan at UFC 300.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was great. Why would you do that?
That's ridiculous, man.
I wonder, what was that fan doing? Or you don't know?
Well,
I don't know the whole story.
I don't know if there was really much to it. I think he was just kind of like trying to like grab him and stuff. And
He's,
you don't do that when a guy's walking out for a fist fight.
Yeah. Oh, so when he was walking out?
It was for the walkout, and the guy was like grabbing him and stuff, and he just turned around and socked him. It was nuts. Like I said,
that's awesome.
Because you have ESPN Plus. Like if you go back and watch UFC 300 now that it's like off pay-per-view, I swear to God, you'll see it. Like he's walking out, and you just see him turn around. He just socks him real quick. He just keeps walking. He won 2 fights.
Just keeps walking.
It
was a good night for Arman Tsarukyan.
At first, I was like, "Oh, it's so harsh that like they suspended him until like January," and then I'm like, "Well, I mean, I guess you probably shouldn't be able to punch a fan." I was like, even if he does cause it,
he kind of deserved it, but
like it's not a good precedent to set to like, if a fan touches you, you have the right to punch him. But I don't know. I think he got fined too.
I saw that.
That's
well, at least there's no like charges or anything.
Yeah. I feel like the guy probably threatened to sue unless something happened. Who knows? Maybe the UFC gave him some money.
Nah, dude, leaving that stadium, he was like, "Dude, you'll never believe what
I was gonna say,
punched by."
He's probably all right with it.
No, he probably probably left in the stretcher.
He's probably all fucked up.
But this is
definitely. They probably had the cut guy in the crowd. They probably called the cut man to go in the audience.
Tate the cut man.
They're putting ice on it. The freaking what's that shit called? They put out the something swell.
Oh, end swell.
Yeah, end swell. Get the end swell in the crowd here.
A little Vaseline, a little end swell.
He's just got a black eye. He's unconscious until the main event.
Yeah, this is definitely not what Michael Chandler was talking about when he mentioned that Arman should have just took the title shot when he had the chance.
Michael Chandler at this point.
He's got to just. Yeah. They got to get him a fight now. Unless they're like working on Conor versus him, like they're already setting another date. If not, I feel like because he hasn't fought since Poirier, right? Or no, Michael Chandler.
I think so.
I think that was his last fight, right? That was a while ago too.
I mean, the way that I was thinking about
that was a good fight.
We talked about this on the pod, me and Tiz. We were saying like, when do they slot him in though? Because you got August already, July we have Edwards versus Bilal, and then August is DDP versus Izzy. September's at the Sphere, so I'm like, maybe you could put it there if he's ready in time. But then October's in Abu Dhabi all the time. Yeah, that's usually what they do. And like for that, I can't imagine that Chandler and McGregor would be the headliner. Yeah. And then November is Madison Square Garden. I feel like that's
maybe Madison Square Garden.
I feel like that's where we're gonna get Jones.
Yeah,
personally.
That's what I've been hearing. Or they could just have both. But then it's like, which one do they make the main event?
Yeah.
Conor, he's got to be the main event.
Yeah, I feel like maybe December could happen.
Yeah.
It's like now Michael Chandler's, we're recording this, spoiler alert, this is our July 4th special, but we're recording this on like June 30th.
Yeah,
so, like we basically have like a half a year until like there's that makes sense.
And it's already been like a year since he fought.
Yeah. And then,
something like that. That was a while ago, that fight against Poirier, which was a good fight.
Chandler's just waiting around. I don't know. I just don't know why he's like accepted every little thing with this fight. Like he just looks like he's on like a leash almost at this point, and I feel bad for him.
Well, it's just like Conor. The best was in the Ultimate Fighter last summer when they had the Team Conor versus Team Chandler. He's like, what weight we're gonna do it at? He's like, well, 185, and Chandler's like, I'll do 185. He's like, you'll do as you're told.
I mean, so far that is remaining true, which is very sad.
I feel bad for him too, because you see him on like the press conference stand talking about, oh, we as athletes, like we get really good at compartmentalizing all that. And so I just took a bunch of pictures and signed a bunch of autographs with friends and stuff, and that helps me keep like grounded and stuff. But you could even
Chandler's doing PR right now for this fight.
even at the fight, he's backstage still training, because before, and he's like talking about, well, this is still my card. And it's like fair, but dude, like you don't have a fight to actually train for right now, so I don't know what you're doing backstage.
I was like thinking about this though, like if Conor McGregor comes back even like close to what he used to be, he has like the style that would be really good against Michael Chandler, because Chandler, he throws like those looping overhands and he like blitzes in with his hands down. Like that's the type of guy that Conor McGregor excels against. Yeah. So even nowadays,
Brawler
like McGregor's power, I'm sure it's still there, even if he's not training his ass off like he should be. So like if Chandler runs into a shot, I still feel like McGregor has the timing and the power to put him out if he really can.
Especially when he's coming in.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like,
pop the jab and pull out.
Because at first I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, Chandler's gonna like, he's probably gonna whoop him, because Conor seems like he's half in, half out. But I'm like, the styles, that old phrase, styles make fights.
Yeah.
This one really doesn't look good stylistically for Michael Chandler, and you wonder, he's taking more and more time in between since his last fight, and he's going to go in there against Conor McGregor, who even at his worst has always been a really good striker in there. Like on his worst day, he's a good striker.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that fight's going to go, and that's kind of why I'm like sad that it didn't happen, because as it got closer, I actually was more hyped for it.
I was hyped originally. Just because it's always good, at this point, all the casuals go crazy. Like, I knew before they canceled the fight, there was kids I knew who don't even watch MMA, and, all of a sudden they're, asking me about the Conor McGregor fight. And I'm like, which is fine, but in my head, I'm like, of course, this is the only thing.
It's the life of a
UFC There's fights every freaking almost week, and pay-per-views once a month, and they don't say shit about anything. And then all of a sudden they're like, so what do you think about the Conor fight? But, I like you said, it's kind of to be expected by now. But I
remember when I was still in high school in 2019 when this was the year after Conor fought Habib, so we were still pretty fresh off of it.
Yeah.
And this one kid in my class, I won't name him because he's not a bad person. He just didn't know.
Just a casual.
Right, exactly. He's just misguided.
Yeah.
But he says to me, he's like, "Yo, when is Conor gonna get the rematch against Habib?" And I'm like, "Did you see what happened?" I was was like, I don't think he's getting a rematch.
Never.
Yeah.
I think
this was before Khabib even retired. So
yeah.
I think the other thing is they obviously, and not to say any of us really would expect it, but we could at least, when it does happen, is like, okay, like it reassures us, like, this is why UFC's #1. This is why these guys are the baddest motherfuckers on the planet. They wouldn't expect something like, you know, for one, a Conor McGregor fight to get called off and replaced by a whole no main event. And then what just happened last night with and even just the whole time leading up to it, what went from Khalil Roundtree to Jamal Hill to Diego Lopez and Dan Ige at a catchweight bout. They wouldn't know any
all these great
fans.
Fights.
Exactly.
Like in the last month we lost the Conor fight, the Robert Whittaker versus Hamza. I was really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And then Khalil Roundtree versus Jamal Hill. I was really looking forward to that. And then Diego Lopez versus Ortega. And I was really looking forward to that. Like it couldn't have been like some bullshit prelim fight that fell through. Like all these like high profile great fights that I really like was on my radar, and I'm like, fuck. It was just like one after the other. It's just been a bad month, but
yeah. People aren't talking about this either, but you're talking about like fights that got canceled. At the top of women's 125, Macy Barber pulled out of the Rose Namajunas fight, so now that fight's canceled too.
Oh shit, I forgot about that.
Yeah, now it's gonna be Thug Rose versus Tracy Cortez.
Oh, really?
That's an interesting fight. At 125, that's an interesting fight. Because Rose doesn't really look the same up there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know.
Because everybody's giving her all this credit for beating Amanda Ribas. I'm like, Amanda Ribas is a 115 or 2 sometimes.
Yeah. They just basically didn't cut weight, cut less weight and just fought at 25. Yeah.
Because when Rose fought Manon Fiorot, it was not even close. So that's, I don't know. I just think that don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Rose Namajunas. It's just, I think that this fight, or even the Macy Barber fight, would have been like tough fights to win. Yeah. I'm curious to see if she can even like get to the top at 125.
When's that fight? Her versus Tracy Cortez.
So there's no card for July 4th weekend, and I think it's the weekend after that. I think it's the next one actually.
It's a good fight though.
No, it is. I love it, man. And with a crowd too in Denver. Me and Tiz have been talking about the UFC Apex because all this time we were talking about how the UFC needs to get out of the Apex, and as they were getting more and more events, we were like, we got to do something special on the channel for UFC Vegas 100 at the Apex.
Yeah, right.
Milestone event. And like now we're actually getting closer. So just so you know, because I'm sure you haven't been keeping track. Me and Tiz might be the only one.
No, to be honest, I'm not.
So they're only at UFC Vegas 93.
Oh, okay.
And now they're starting to get back into the arenas again with the fans. And we're like, of course now we're actually getting close to this one event at the Apex that we were looking forward to. And now they're starting to get back to the fans. Yeah, exactly.
I think I can confidently say that you guys are the only ones.
No, yeah, exactly. I think we are.
I mean, I guess it's kind of easy to keep, not easy, but like the way to check it is like every time they have one in Vegas, they put it like the hashtag UFC Vegas.
I love how you said
so I guess I could like just see it when it happens without really like knowing it beforehand, you know, like, oh shit, UFC Vegas 100. But
that's actually how I do it, I swear.
Yeah. Thank God for those hashtags. I have to go back and count up all the cards. Talk about, you'd really be a hardcore then.
Me and Tiz still haven't thought of like what we want to do yet for UFC Vegas 100. Like maybe we'll do like an immediate reaction, like the main event, like we'll film it like during the main event, like live reacting to it. Or maybe like we were talking about this in the beginning, maybe we'll have Tiz versus Jim in a jiu-jitsu match.
I want to see that.
See, all right, we got 2 votes. I'm throwing.
It sounds like 100 is.
We might also have to do something like just build a main card for that card.
What for?
So just like have five fights we think could make perfect sense for.
Well, I told you what I thought I wanted to be the main event. I said Alexander Volkov versus Jailton Almeida.
That's a good fight.
But like, let me say this too, because like the UFC Apex, you remember it's like the smaller cage, so like you'd wonder if Alexander Volkov could defend the early takedowns against Jailton Almeida in the small cage, but also Jailton has like pretty bad cardio from what we've seen so far. Mm-hmm. So if Volkov can get through like rounds 1 and 2, that's a pretty good fight, stylistically.
Yeah, it is.
And it's crazy. Like Volkov's basically in the top 3 right now because he just beat Pavlovich.
Yeah.
I have the rankings. I'm curious if they did put him at 3.
That fight Almeida had against Curtis Blades, I was watching that the other day, and he was doing great in the first round, especially against a wrestler.
Out,
and then when he came out, But Curtis like caught him on the way in, I think too. Like he got to Curtis's legs, but I think he got hurt on the way in, and then Curtis just started hitting him with all those hammer fists, and that was a wrap. But
do you remember when Curtis Blades got hit with that one uppercut by Derek Lewis coming in?
Oh my God,
that was a rough one.
That was a bad one. Yeah,
that's Herb Dean's fault.
Yeah.
Oh, the main event. People
really
were saying that
one.
too because Yuri got head kicked by Alex, and he was clearly done. Like so, you said you didn't get to watch the fight.
Yeah,
so I'll tell
unfortunately.
You this. At the end of the first round, Alex hit Yuri with a left hook and dropped him bad. Like Yuri was like stumbling to the corner.
Oh really?
And so the knockout happened like very early in the second round.
Yeah.
And like Herb Dean, after he got hit with the head kick, you could tell it was basically a wrap.
Yeah.
And he had to eat like a bunch more ground and pound before Herb Dean ran and stopped. I was like,
surprisingly, the UFC, usually they don't do it right away, but they showed the highlights, like the finish, I should say, was all over Instagram already, like right after it happened last night when I checked my phone at like, 1 o'clock in the morning.
I think they're trying to push Pereira.
Yeah,
I think they know
that's why.
Time.
When they do that, that means like they want people to see it. They're like, all right, we don't give a shit.
I mean, I think outside of an active Conor McGregor, he's the biggest star in the UFC right now. Like I've been saying this, like just from seeing how the fans react to him. Like I know the media hasn't been quick to give him credit, but like every time he's at a UFC event, whether he's there as like a fan or he's there fighting, the crowd loves that guy. And
but I wonder what that really says for a guy that literally doesn't speak English.
That's my point. Like
that's what I'm saying. It's even more impressive. I think it's like his aura, and he just looks like a murderer. You know, like.
Well, when we went to UFC 302,
he looks like
me
an
and
animal.
Tiz went to Ariel Helwani's road show, and like it was a crowd. How many people do you think were there? Like 75 to 100.
Yeah,
in that little room
probably,
in the NJ Pack?
probably like a little over 100.
Yeah, and like when he came out there, like. We had a Chama stand.
There was
people
coming in and stuff as it was going too,
including Captain Eric Albarracin.
Captain Eric Albarracin.
Dude, you would think this is funny. We were at the press conference, or it might have been the weigh-ins, I forget which. He was wearing like a sequin jacket, like you ever see like Michael Jackson, like at the Grammys, like and shit. He was wearing one of those, and I looked over, I was like, who the fuck is wearing that jacket? I'm like, is that Eric Albarracin?
I'm not surprised.
We saw him at the press conference, we saw him at the weigh-ins, and we saw him at the road show.
I wish we could have met him.
I asked you about him. I was like, who the hell is this? I was like, who is this guy walking around?
I remember when he was on Joe Rogan's podcast with Henry Cejudo like a few years ago. Yeah. And like after like 20 minutes, Joe Rogan's like, all right, man, take the mask off. He's like,
he was literally wearing a Captain America hoodie, like the one with like, you know, because I know Jim probably hasn't seen this. Yeah, like the thing. Well, no, it didn't.
No, he had like a mask on though.
Did he have the mask too? I thought it was just the hood that
he had
went
a mask
over, like,
on.
Oh my god!
This is from like a couple years ago with Henry Cejudo. Yeah. Oh my god.
That was so great. I mean, he's a character. That's for sure.
Speaking of the Joe Rogan MMA show, did you guys by any chance see the Tank Abbott one?
I saw clips of it.
That was really good.
Thing. I gotta watch the whole.
It's really good. You wouldn't even. I'm like, this is Tank Abbott. I didn't even think that was him.
He looks so different.
Yeah, he looks and sounds different, but like when he talks about everything, like, oh, it's really good, and you're just like, wow, this guy's really what you would think. You know what I mean?
I sent it to Brian like right when.
I thought of him. I'm like, he'd probably love this.
Yeah, everybody.
But after watching, I'm like, wow, I like Tank Abbott even more. Like he tells a lot of crazy stories, and then what happened with his health, and he almost died, and all this crazy shit. Like, it's really interesting, and it's like motivating to watch because he's like, he says a lot of like things that really can, you know, like really like philosophical about fighting and shit like that, and just like, I don't know, it is really good. I would recommend anyone watch it.
I mean,
I watch all the MMA shows. The Hoist Gracie one was really good, but
that's true.
Tank Abbott, that's when I'll probably go rewatch again.
Honestly, I should watch the whole thing.
Yeah,
I've seen
it's
like
really
clips
good
on YouTube so far. It's speaking of old school MMA guys, like dude, shout out to the Hammer, Mark Coleman. Me and Tiz him. I don't think I told you how that happened. Like, so me and Tiz were in an Uber. I don't think we've actually talked about this on any podcast, Tiz. So yeah, like we were about to take an Uber to the weigh-ins, and it was sunny out, so like there was like it was kind of hard to see because we were kind of like squinting, and we saw like a guy, and like when we walked out of the entrance, I kind of was like, is that Mark Coleman? I was like, no, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And we get in the car, and then I see that he has a Devils jersey on that says Coleman in the back. I'm like, oh shit, that's Mark Coleman. Yeah. And then like at that point we were already like leaving the hotel parking lot. I was like, oh well, too late now.
Yeah.
And then the next day, Mark Coleman had posted something on Instagram, and Tiz genius idea, by the way. And he left a comment on the Instagram post saying that like we saw him outside like the hotel and stuff, and like, oh, it'd be cool if like we run into him over the weekend. And he was like, oh yeah, come outside in like 5-10 minutes.
Really?
And we're like, that's and wasn't it like quick too?
Yeah,
it was like within minutes.
Yeah, he responded instantly.
Damn.
Yeah, and so we went out there and we talked to Mark Coleman for a bit. We got the main event prediction from him for the vlog. That was fun. We took a picture.
What was his prediction?
Islam. He said he went with the Dagestani wrestling.
Yeah,
he was right.
I think he said Islam submission too, so he was exactly
spot
right.
on.
But here's like how I kind of thought of it when it initially happened, when we were leaving to the weigh-ins on that day, because I don't realize that it's him, but I see a guy with a Mickey Gall shirt on. So honestly, from that, I'm kind of thinking like, this guy's gotta be with somebody, right?
Yeah.
And so when we're in the Uber, like we're leaving and stuff, and then Rob goes, is that Mark Coleman? I do a double take, and we both do the double take, and like Rob pretty much his jacket confirmed with his last name, like yeah, that's him. So I went to his Instagram and I saw like he was posting about like, hey, I'm here around in Elizabeth and stuff, and if you see me, like say hello. So the next day, like pretty much saw him outside. He posted something outside the hotel again, and I just like I had to leave the comment, just pretty much seeing if he could still at some point the weekend we could still see him and talk to him and stuff, and instantly he responded, and we were out
that's
there.
Surprising that he responded.
Guys,
especially quickly.
Outside of like obviously the fact that he literally like met us outside of the hotel, like the nicest guy, dude, like such a cool
it's crazy
dude.
Man,
like because sometimes you'll meet like an athlete, and like I think at this point like, I've done like enough like interviews at UFC fighters that like I don't get like starstruck anymore, but like still. I'm walking out there. I'm like, that's Mark Coleman. Like that's different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he was the nicest dude. Like you could not script that any better than it went. He was a really nice dude. It was funny too. I was like, I almost didn't want to ask him if if we could take like a quick video for the vlog, and then when I did it first, he was like, oh, I don't know, and he was like, you know what? He goes, it's what I think. I'll put my prediction out there, and then he said it on video. So he was the man. Honestly, we really enjoyed talking to him. That was a highlight of that weekend, that's for sure. Because I mean, in Newark, there's not really much else.
Yeah.
Because me and Tiz, we went to Massachusetts to cover Combat FC, and like for that, we were like, oh, we can go around Boston. We have some content we could just film around the city, but in Newark, there's not much to film outside of the fights.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Yeah.
You guys might get your camera stolen or something over there.
That's it. Well, dude, I didn't even bring it outside. I had my phone outside.
Oh, yeah. True.
But, that was definitely a tale of two cities.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Very much
I loved it, too, because, like, you know how they always, when they go to a different city, they'll post, like, the main and the co-main event fighters, like, in front of some like landmark in the city. In Newark, it was just like Sean Strickland and Paulo Costa, like in front of some just shitty, janky ass skyscraper. Terrible, dude.
Yeah, this is the best we got.
It was so bad.
And I mean, I can break it here too, like because we tried recording our roadcast episode as well, and there just wasn't much to talk about outside of what was already in the vlog, anyway.
Me and Tiz were literally talking. We finished talking about what had happened over the weekend already, like with meeting Ara Hawani and stuff like that. But then like that day we were sitting there trying to record our podcast in the hotel room and trying to talk about Newark. I'm like, well, there really hasn't been anything that's happened. We were talking about fucking Star Wars because Star Wars is on TV. I literally was like, yo, Revenge of the Sith, good movie.
There's literally just a Star Wars marathon going on the TV. And that's what we started
dude, it was so
about.
Stupid. Like we had nothing to talk about. Like, in Boston, even outside of Boston, like we were talking about like Pink Floyd a little bit, some other stuff, but in Newark we just had nothing.
Not much to work with.
I mean, we got lucky too because I forgot the cord that like connects the camera to the laptop, so I could film it on like OBS, like I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And because of that, like it was already a hassle to get the pod done, and we filmed one that was like 20 minutes, and like we were kind of like watching it, and we were like, this is terrible. Like, we can't put this out.
Exactly.
The Her Handbook Star Wars special.
Yeah, right.
It was so bad. Like we had just stopped talking about like the weigh-ins and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden I'm like, Revenge of the Sith is on.
That's it, exactly. Yep.
Background while you guys were doing it.
Well, no, like I had it like muted and stuff, but like,
but still,
it was in my direct line of sight.
Like, oh, it's a pretty good scene.
That's for sure. But
yeah,
man, I mean, like I said, it is June 30th, but this will be coming out on July 4th. So for everybody who is watching on July 4th, we hope you're having a great American Independence Day.
Oh, yeah.
Take a drink or something. Celebrate.
Do something.
Right. Celebrate America on its birthday because, like we are. And, we wanted to do a special podcast for July 4th. There's no UFC card, so we had to put something in between it. True. We're glad that we got to get you back on the podcast, Sean. Everybody enjoyed your last appearance, so we hope that everybody enjoys this one because I think this one was a fun pod.
Yeah,
too.
Definitely.
And Jim,
people tolerated my life.
No, the power slap vid should have done better. I think we were in a different era of the channel back then. I wasn't as good at making thumbnails as I am now. That's for sure. I think that's how we suffered. But...
I'd be more than willing to do another one if they continue to stay irrelevant. So
we'll film another power slap comment video.
Yeah, right.
But for everybody, happy July 4th, and we'll see y'all.